Calling this meeting to order as we convene to make the transition to in-person meetings. Some of the participants are participating via teleconference. Today's public meetings are also being live streamed from the Port Authority website. We'll now hold the public meeting starting with the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, which will be chaired by the Vice Chair Linford. A joint meeting of Committees on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management and Operations will follow, which I will co-chair with the Vice Chair, and we'll conclude with the public portion of today's meeting with a public board meeting. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, I will now report on two items. The first item, which was discussed earlier today in committee, authorizes a program for priority marine rehabilitation projects at our New York and New Jersey marine terminals at a total cost of approximately $180 million. Prior to making a motion on this item, I asked the Corporate Secretary to note any Commissioner recusals. Reading the wrong thing. Script 1 before script 2. Thank you very much. Try it again. Sorry. Today's meeting on the Committee of Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management is being held in public session. The committee met in executive session earlier today to discuss matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals. At this point, I ask the Secretary advise those present of the composition of the committee and any commissioner recusals on the items before the committee.
Thank you. The Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management is composed of Vice Chairman Linford, the committee chair, Chairman O'Toole, the committee vice chair, and Commissioners Helmy, LaBarbera, and Rosado. All committee members are present. In addition to the committee members, Commissioners Olwage, Cohen, Eve, Fisher, Kelly, McCabe, and Richardson are also present. There are no recusals required.
Thank you. I now call on our Director of Port Department, Beth Ann Rooney, to present an item that would authorize a wharf rehabilitation program for New York and New Jersey Port Authority marine terminals. Thank you. You're on. Where are you, Beth?
I'm right here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chairman, Commissioners. The Port Department is seeking authorization today of a priority marine rehabilitation program to conduct major wharf rehabilitation work at our marine terminals. We further request authorization for the Executive Director to enter into master agreements with pre-qualified firms and delegated authority to award contracts for multiple competitively bid work order packages at an estimated cost of $100 million over 5 years. We have structured this program to be scalable, flexible, and efficient in order to address critical priority rehabilitation at key facilities. This program will ensure that the wharves remain functioning and in a state of good repair until capital rehabilitation obligations can be shifted to port tenants or otherwise funded in the capital program. Let us first start with just a general understanding of what is a wharf. Focusing for a moment on our container facilities, a container terminal is typically a very large, mostly open area that allows for the stacking and temporary storage of containers after they come off a vessel and before they leave the terminal by truck or rail. Container vessels tie up alongside the edge of this facility parallel to the shoreline. The term berth refers to the location where the ship parks at the terminal, and the term wharf refers to the structure that the ships tie up to. The area shown in red here is the wharf structure. Most of the work that would be performed under this program will be done in the water under the wharf deck where it is not seen. Most of the port's wharves are decades old, with key structural elements built on timber wood piles dating back to the 1920s and 1930s. While the water quality in the harbor has dramatically improved in the last couple of decades, it has led to a resurgence of the marine borer, an invertebrate worm-like creature that feeds on timber piles. And I have an exhibit here today of a former pile that has been eaten by marine borers. Very exciting. Engineering's Quality Assurance Division inspects our facilities every 3 years and has identified thousands of repairs that are needed to the wharf structures. Working together to prioritize the required repairs, we have identified approximately 1,700 repairs that will be the focus of this contract we are seeking authorization for. The rehabilitation work will add up to 15 years of life to each repaired element. Ultimately, these wharves must all be reconstructed and replaced using current design standards and material specifications, specifically steel and concrete, in place of timber. The program we are seeking authorization for today does not fund reconstruction. Reconstruction will be performed either by our tenants as part of negotiated lease terms or as future Port Authority capital programs. Historically, this type of repair work has been done through relatively small work order contracts. Working with the engineering department, we have determined that we must complete the current repairs in a more timely manner. This program is designed to provide the required speed, scale, and flexibility, and models a similarly successful approach used in the past by the aviation department. To begin, we expect to solicit a publicly advertised RFQ to develop 2 pre-qualified lists of marine construction contractors, one for minority firms and one for traditional firms, but with set minority participation goals. We will then enter into master agreements with each qualified firm by the end of Q1 2024. Using QAD cyclical inspections, which provide the basis for the scope of work, we will develop individual work order packages specific to discrete sections of wharf. Each work package will then be released to the appropriate pre-qualified list based on the value of the work. A contract award will be made to the low bidder on authority delegated to the Chief of Procurement. In accordance with the agency's discretionary program, the A list will be used for work valued at $2.5 million or less, while the B list will be used for larger projects over $2.5 million. We expect the first work order package to go out for bid to pre-qualified firms by the end of the second quarter of 2024. Throughout the program, we will be coordinating closely with our terminal operators and tenants to minimize disruption, and internally, we will be coordinating with engineering and procurement and reporting progress and participation in the MWBE and SDVBE goals. Overall, we estimate just over $100 million in construction and a total program cost of $180 million, inclusive of planning and design, contingency, and agency allocations. $130 million will be drawn from the Port Department's capital plan allocation, with the remaining $50 million coming from the agency's interim maintenance contingency fund, consistent with the COVID budget. Again, we are requesting today that the board authorize a program for priority wharf rehabilitation work at port facilities at an estimated total program cost of $180 million, and that the executive director be authorized to enter into master work order agreements with pre-qualified firms and award contracts to deliver the program via competitively bid procured work order packages. I thank you for your time today, and I'd be happy to address any questions or concerns that you might have.
Thank you, Beth Ann. I would also like to commend you on your show and tell item. I think it will be remembered as equivalent to when the aviation department brought in hazmat suits for all of us and we had to don them. So we will remember that. And do I have any commissioner colleagues who want to make a comment or question on this matter? Okay, may I please have a motion from a committee member?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is passed. This concludes today's meeting of capital planning, execution, and asset management, and I turn it back to our august chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We'll now begin the joint meeting of committees on capital planning, execution, asset management, and operations. Today's meeting on the joint committees on capital planning, execution, asset management, and operations is being held in public in its entirety. At this point, we ask the board secretary to advise of the composition of the committee and ask reveal any recusals.
A committee on capital planning, execution, and asset management is composed of Vice Chairman Linford, the committee chair, Chairman O'Toole, the committee vice chair, and Commissioners Helmy, LaBarbera, and Rosado. Committee on operations is composed of Chairman O'Toole, the committee chair, Vice Chairman Linford, the committee vice chair, and Commissioners Kelly, LaBarbera, and McCabe. All committee members are present. Also present are Commissioners Bolwage, Cohen, Eve, Fisher, and Richardson. There are no recusals required.
Thank you, Board Secretary. I now call upon our Director of Rail Transit, Clarell DeGraff, to review an item concerning a path, track, and rail car state of good repair program to improve the reliability of path service. Clarell, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today, PATH is seeking board authorization to maintain certain components of PATH's rail car fleet and track sections in a state of good repair at a total program cost of $230 million. I am also requesting authorization for the president of PATH to take various contractual commitments necessary to deliver this program. This program is the next chapter of the agency's significant and sustained investment in the PATH rail system. Over the past decade, the agency has had a steady and continuous focus on PATH. This slide represents a few of the projects that have been undertaken to maintain the system in a state of good repair, make necessary repairs following Superstorm Sandy, and make the system more resilient from future storms and expand system capacity. Over the past decade, the agency has invested $2.6 billion in PATH, and the program I will be discussing today will build upon that prior investment. Within this program, approximately $62 million total project costs will be used to rehabilitate a significant number of trucks on PATH rail cars. Trucks serve as the suspension system of a rail car. These components require rehabilitation on a significant portion of the rail car fleet and would include the replacement of certain obsolete parts. We will also retain professional services to help us define and prepare for the next major car overhaul. The majority of the funding, approximately $168 million total project costs, will go towards the rehabilitation of multiple segments of the track network located west of the Hudson River. This work is expected to improve both the performance of the railcar fleet and the reliability of rail operations. The railcar work will optimize railcar availability by replacing failing and obsolete components, specifically the railcar truck components, which includes the railcar's chassis, axles, and wheels, were identified as in need of rehabilitation on approximately 138 cars to improve their performance. On the right-hand side of the slide is a rendering of the train's truck. Under this program, we would also retain consultants to identify new strategies to improve fleet logistics and management and assist with defining the scope for a future overhaul of the railcar fleet. The track work scope would help improve on the performance and reliability of the track network. The specific area of work is between Journal Square, Hoboken, and Exchange Place stations. These areas, which are mostly located within tunnels, were last rehabilitated over 20 years ago. As the proposed program will require certain service interruptions to perform the track work, we are developing a robust outreach plan to get the word out well before work commences. We will also be communicating with passengers, the local communities, and other stakeholders throughout construction to maintain an elevated awareness of service impacts and alternatives. We will also be closely coordinating this work with other regional transit providers, both to ensure that our work doesn't conflict with theirs and to provide our PATH customers with alternate options to reach their destinations during PATH service disruptions. Here are the details of the total program cost and the expected duration. As I mentioned previously, there will be extensive outreach prior to the commencement of any track work under the program. In summary, I'm requesting that you recommend this program to the full board for consideration at today's public board meeting. The total program is $230 million and encompasses both repairs to components of the PATH railcar fleet and track improvements west of the Hudson River. As part of the program request, I'm also requesting that you authorize the president of PATH to enter into contracts and agreements to deliver the program, including professional services, materials and services contracts, and track work order contracts. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll take any questions now.
Great, Clarell, thank you. A couple of things. This is a massive investment, almost $250 million, $230 million. We talk about service interruption. Let's talk about what happens if we don't make this investment into PATH. We haven't had these type of repairs or improvements over 2 decades. Assuming we don't do this, we don't put that investment in, what's the future look like?
The future will look like continued service interruptions. The rail car, it's over half its life with our cars, and they will continue to deteriorate if they don't have this massive rehabilitation in preparation for the next overhaul. So you'll continue to see delays on our system. Also, our track network, over 20 years of rail network that's in the system, will continue. We'll have from water infiltration, we'll see breakages and continued track conditions occurring. So this is really to support more reliable service, a little bit of pain for more reliable service and increasing capacity.
Well, there's going to be some pain points. It's going to cause, as you say, some service interruption. Could be some closures at some point in time, which you're going to do this robust outreach, which is obviously necessary. 2024 is going to be an exciting year for PATH. It's going to get a facelift.
Huge.
72 new cars. These improvements, once they're finished, is going to, I think, make a remarkable improvement.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it, but let's make sure that those pain points are reduced as best and as narrowly as humanly possible.
Yeah, we're looking at that now, Commissioner. And
other-
Commissioner Linford, I am sorry I would have brought a truck here for you as show and tell, but it wouldn't fit through the door. So
Thank you. Next time.
Any other commissioners have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much. May I please have a motion from a committee member who's not recused?
So move.
Second? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is passed and we'll move forward. That concludes today's joint meeting on the capital planning, execution, and asset management and operations. And we will now move on to the board meeting. Thank you, Jim. Public board meeting. Good afternoon. The board meeting of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and its component units is now being called to order. Today's in-person meeting is also being held virtually via video conference, with the proceedings live streamed from the Port Authority website. On November 8th, the Committees on Audit and Finance met in executive session. Earlier today, the Committees on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management and Operations met jointly in public, and the Committees on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management met in public and executive. Their reports will be filed with the official minutes of today's board meeting. Commissioners also met in executive earlier today to discuss matters involving public safety or law enforcement, matters related to the purchase, sale, or lease of real property where the disclosure would affect the value thereof, or the public interest, matters related to the personnel procedures, or to discuss and act upon matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals. For our first order of business at the board meeting, we call our Chief Financial Officer, Libby McCarthy, who is going to discuss the proposed Port Authority 2024 budget. This proposed budget was posted on the Port Authority website for public comment last week. Libby, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, Commissioners. So today I am pleased to present the proposed 2024 budget. And as the Chairman just mentioned, in order to provide the public with ample time to comment on the proposed budget, we did post it on our website on November 15th in advance of this meeting. The proposed budget for 2024 totals $9.3 billion and consists of 4 components: operating expenses, capital expenses, debt service, and deferred spending. This budget advances the simple but fundamental mission of the Port Authority, which is to keep the region moving. And it reflects the deliberate and responsible allocation of resources laser focused on our key priorities. This budget is a $1 billion increase compared to the 2023 budget, and that is driven by a $725 million increase in capital spending, and a roughly $200 million increase in our operating budget. And I will walk through the drivers of those components as I go through. But importantly, as I mentioned, the budget is focused on our key priorities, so that this budget funds our largest ever security budget of nearly $1 billion, which includes $17 million for cybersecurity. It provides $2 billion for the ongoing operations and maintenance focused on providing best-in-class facilities and an exemplary customer experience. It includes $3.6 billion in capital spending to advance the key projects to transform the infrastructure into 21st century facilities and perform essential state of good repair work. And it invests over $86 million to advance our net zero emissions projects, in addition to $220 million related to resiliency-related funding. And finally, it dedicates over $200 million to invest in technologies and systems that support innovation and supports our innovation hub. The proposed budget, it was developed, as I said, in a way to think forward about where we are in our recovery from COVID-19 and what's happening at our facilities. So to put things into context, I thought I would highlight some of the key things going on at our facilities. At Aviation, we're projecting to serve a record nearly 147 million passengers. That would be 108% of pre-COVID levels. We are continuing our massive investment in transforming our airports into 21st century airports and meeting best-in-class standards. And we are, of course, at the airports, laser focused on safety and security, including managing landside and traffic challenges. At TB&T, we project that we'll have over about 122 million vehicles to use our bridges and tunnels in 2024. And there we are focused on maintaining our state-of-the-art all-electronic tolling system and improving toll collection and recovery, and ensuring, again, best-in-class safety and security at our facilities. PATH, we are projecting that we will have 57 million passengers use the PATH system in 2024. That's 70% of our pre-COVID levels. There, Chlorel just spoke to you about our focus on improving the customer experience through our new State of Good Repair initiative and the continued rollout of our 9-car train operations on the Newark to World Trade Center line. Again, focus on our safety and security across the PATH system, and then also important, implementing our 21st century tap-and-go payment system. At the ports, we project that we'll have 8.1 million TEUs, which is 108% of pre-pandemic levels. We'll continue to focus on increasing our market share and maintaining the port's leadership position amongst U.S. ports, and reducing truck congestion and improving traffic around the ports, including for the Port Street Corridor Improvement Project at Port Newark. And finally, at the World Trade Center, following the completion of the Performing Arts Center just a few weeks ago, we are focused on maximizing the vibrancy and activation of the World Trade Center campus and operating and managing a fully leased Tower 1. So with that in context, I show here our proposed budget, both from the sources side and from the uses side. It's a self-funding entity. It is important for us to make sure that we have sources that can balance with our uses. So you can see the primary, on the sources side, our primary sources are our gross operating revenues that we collect at our various facilities, and debt issuance and other sources on hand, as well as some grants and passenger facility charges. And I'm going to walk through the key parts of this. That balances off the spending $3.9 billion for operating expenses, 3.6 for capital, 1.7 for debt service, and $100 million for our deferred spending. This slide is important because it shows the progression in our net operating revenues. And when you look back to 22 actuals, our 23 budget, and this proposed budget. And why am I focusing you on our net operating budget revenues? It's because that is what allows us to leverage that net operating revenue to fund our important capital plan. So you can see, as we've been recovering and activity at our facilities have been recovering from COVID-19, the net operating revenue is improving, and that is what's going to allow us to afford that significant increase and get back to our pre-COVID spending on our capital plan. So, and we also look at this and balance this with our various credit metrics to make sure that we're maintaining the credit strength and credit quality of the Port Authority. So let me drill down a little bit into gross operating revenues. First, we always start with where we are on activity. Not going to spend a lot of time here because I've framed at least where we expect to be on the activity, but let me orient you on the slides here. On the left, we have aviation. The yellow dotted line is 2019 levels. The blue line is our actual and or projected activity levels at the airports. On the right-hand side is TB&T in the same format. So you can see that the airports incurred a very significant drop in passenger activity in 2020. Started working its way back in 21 and 2022. And finally, in 2023, we've gone past pre-COVID levels, and we project to continue that growth into 2024. TB&T, more resilient in the pandemic, still had a significant drop, but not nearly to the level of aviation, and a quicker recovery. And 2023, basically at 2019 levels, and we expect some modest growth into 2024. At the ports, different story. So significant just increase in port activity in 21 and 22, driven by the goods-driven economy in those years. And now what we're seeing is that the activity at the ports is coming back in line to the economic shifts between goods and services, as well as some of the impacts of inventory on hand. And we expect that ports will actually have some growth into 2024 from 23's estimate and be at 108% of 2019 levels. And then PATH finally, which is on the right-hand side here, you can see had a precipitous drop in its ridership and has had a much slower recovery and is still anticipated to be at 70% of pre-COVID levels in 2024. So when you mix this activity level into our formulas as well as our fixed or participation-based rents, what this translates into is a operating revenue budget of $6.7 billion, which is an increase of $300 million, or roughly 5%. Most of that is occurring at the airports, 220 million of that. That's coming from our rentals, which are driven by activity and the full year impact of the new redevelopment leases that we have at the airports. So that's 130 million of that increase. And roughly 80 million is driven by a combination of higher estimated cost recoveries, access fees given increased activity, and AirTrain fares given activity increases, as well as the 25-cent CPI-based increase that was approved back in 2019. TB&T, $103 million of an increase. That's broken up into two components. One is $75 million related to the CPI-based toll increase. Again, that was confirmed by the board in 2019, confirming actions in 2011 and 2008 with respect to a CPI increases in the budgets. And then there's also a component of vehicle growth. As I mentioned, there's some growth in the activity levels there and the mix between autos and trucks. And finally, for PATH, there's a modest increase reflecting the modest ridership growth that we're seeing for 2024, and there is no assumed fare increase in 2024 for PATH. So let me move on to our operating expenses. The operating expense budget totals $3.9 billion, and it was developed first by creating a base budgetary inflation escalation of 3.5%, reflecting inflation, current inflation environment. That's $126 million. That money then was allocated to the departments in relation to our priorities. And in addition to that, we are proposing a special purpose spending of $66 million, which is necessitated by new or expanded facilities that are coming either into service in 24 or will be in service for the full year of 2024. And that's needed because the larger facilities will require more dollars to operate them because of the larger footprints. We have required incremental security spending of $9 million, which brings our total security spending to approximately $1 billion, and that's in response to the current threat landscape. PATH, as we already mentioned, we have the money in here. This is the operating portion of the money of what Clarel just addressed with you for the new State of Good Repair spending program. And then finally, we have costs that are related to activities we're taking on that have some component of cost recovery to them or incremental revenue. So things like maintaining the AirTrain or fuelers at the airports where there's a cost recovery component to them. So when you add that special project spending to the base and inflationary escalation, the total increase is roughly is $192 million. So moving on to our capital spending. So I didn't bring props either because they wouldn't fit in the room because mine are really big. So let me just talk a little bit about some of our accomplishments in 2023, some of the capital milestones, and then we'll talk about the proposed spending for 2024. So at Aviation, full opening of the brand new LEED Gold certified Terminal A at Newark Airport, which is getting rave reviews. Final stages of a whole new LaGuardia, including a new Terminal C gates and the Atrium Business and Conference Center, and major construction starting on the JFK transformation into a world-class gateway. Substantial at TB&T, we had substantial strides on restoring the George program, including the completion of the replacement of all of the suspender ropes on the north side of the bridge and the completion of the pedestrian walkways and plazas. We had completion of critical Superstorm Sandy rehabilitation on the south tube of the Holland Tunnel. On both, we have switched to the other side. So we're now in the north tube doing work, and on the George, we are now on the south walks. At ports, we have started the major construction for the Port Street Corridor Improvement Project at Port Newark and start of the southbound track connection from Elizabeth Express Rail to help enhance throughput. At PATH, we have delivery of the additional rail cars and the start of the 9-car train operations on the Newark to World Trade Center line, and advancement of the new tap-and-go payment system. And at World Trade Center, As I mentioned before, following we had the opening of the new Performing Arts Center and the Greek Orthodox Church. We have continuing activation of the campus. So what are we going to do? What have you done for me lately? What are we going to do? And
a first. At our Bridges and Tunnels, October 2023 volumes continued to achieve pre-COVID 2019 volumes, completely equalizing October 2019. In total, our crossings handled 10.5 million vehicles in the month of October. In October, our seaport handled a strong increase of 11.4% above the volume of cargo handled in October 2019. The seaport's strong performance maintains its leadership position as the number 2 port in the country for loaded imports and exports year to date. Finally, PATH, October 2023 was the highest monthly total ridership since February 2020. Total PATH ridership in the month of October was at 64% of October 2019, and weekend ridership was at 90% of October 2019 levels. An extraordinarily strong performance and strong trend across all of our facilities. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions to our executive director in his report? Seeing none, we're going to move ahead. We will now provide an opportunity for the members of the public to comment on Port Authority matters. This public comment period, which will be limited to 30 minutes in total, provides an opportunity for members of the public to present their views directly to the board, but does not provide for a dialogue. Members of the public wishing to discuss a specific matter with the Port Authority staff are advised to contact our Public Affairs Department, and we'll point them in the proper direction or department. Speakers are asked to comply with a fixed time of 3 minutes. So we have, Jim, 3 speakers that are listed here, correct? And 2 video statements?
We have 1 public speaker present, 2 video statements.
Okay. Christopher. No mother. She's busy today.
Fortunately, today is her advisory council meeting, and I was actually at a press conference in Park Slope, which we just opened the 7th elevator. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Grive here live in person. First, I was really glad to see the presentations today of what we're seeing in the future of PATH trains, but I hope to see more on the PATH trains, and I agree with you that we need to make sure the trains are safe to get on and off at all times, as well as the platform edges as well. As you know, MTA does the similar way to try to keep the platforms even in the middle of the platform where the conductors are, but things will work on. I do want to thank about the Omni at the Jamaica station. I just hope that PATH trains can also do the same, so it'll be easier to tap, to go on and off the train, quicker and safer for people with disabilities and seniors, because people with disabilities who are in wheelchairs, and don't forget the veterans, are very important to be used on those trains who want to go to the mall or Newark Airport or Newark Penn Station to travel and see, to have a little excitement. Some of us do go to Liberty Science Center, which I used to do when I was a kid, but I like to travel on trains. And yes, sometimes buses, but trains actually gets to my destination a little quicker, and hope to see more about accessibility in the next year regarding elevators and maybe ramps, because more accessibility does help our customers who want to travel. And let's don't forget baby strollers. They're very important to be used. So I hope in the future we can work on more capital construction on the future of accessibility. But I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays. Thank you.
Christopher, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Tell your mom the same and get that tooth fixed, will you please?
I will. And fortunately, I'm sorry she was not here today. Today is the advisory council meeting, and I was sitting here listening a little bit, but that meeting was extremely crowded. And MTA did a press conference today at 7th Avenue and 9th Street, so you may see me on the news there as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. First video is Rachel Kneps.
Rachel Kepnes, yes.
Thanks for that correction, Jim.
Hi everyone, my apologies not being there in person. Travel accommodations did not work out. I'm speaking on behalf of the voiceless of the dogs that are sent from JFK International from Marshall Bioresources, which is located in North Rose, New York. It is the most notorious beagle breeder in the world. It is owned by Scott Marshall. He owns many facilities, not just that one. He has one in the United Kingdom, France, China, and Germany. These dogs are sent to laboratories and universities all over the world where they will be subjected to horrifying, archaic, painful, outdated experiments. These dogs are abused, starved, neglected, bled to death, and much, much worse. And we are trying to stop him. Please watch this video to the fullest and please help us save their lives. No dog ever deserves to go through what they go through. And they're being sent from the biggest international airport in the world. Please help us stop Scott, and please help us save their lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Today I want to discuss something about PATH. For example, if someone takes the PATH train from World Trade Center to Exchange Place, that takes 4 minutes. However, if I took the PATH from Christopher Street to Hoboken, it takes 10 minutes. Why for the long delay? And second of all, about the Port Authority board meetings, I think at the start of every board meeting, we should recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And thirdly, I would like to suggest, in the minutes to have my name as Bucky's Highland, BUCHYSHYLAND. Thank you. God bless you. Happy Thanksgiving and happy Hanukkah. And I'll turn it back over to Chairman O'Toole.
And so, Jim, that was Matthew Bucky's Highland, correct?
That's correct.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's the last video statement.
Yes, that's correct.
Already turning to the business on the voting agenda. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide a brief report prior to the matter being considered today. As chair of the Committee on Operations, I will now present several items under the committee's purview. The first item authorizes a supplement to the existing lease with JFK Airport Plaza for its operations of a gas station, travel plaza, and truck parking facility at JFK, John F. Kennedy International Airport. The supplement will provide an additional 4.2 acres to the leasehold for the leasee to expand these facilities at its sole cost and extend the terms of the lease through May 2043. Prior to making a motion, I ask the corporate secretary to ask for any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Any comments? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Votes are in order. The item's approved. Next item authorizes an agreement under which New Jersey Transit would grant a permanent easement to the Hoboken Terminal. This easement will enable PATH to install, maintain, and operate a flood door at a stairwell that connects to the PATH Hoboken station. Prior to making a motion, I ask the corporate secretary to note any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Any questions or comments? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Votes are in order. The item's been approved. The next, we have an item that authorizes a lease with a Teriyaki One Japanese Grill for the operation of a restaurant at Journal Square Transportation Center for approximately 10-year period at an aggregate rent of approximately $1.46 million. The lease also contains 2 5-year extension periods. Prior to making a motion, I ask the corporate secretary to note any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Any comments or questions? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Votes are in order. This item has been approved. The next item authorizes a collective bargaining agreement with the Port Authority Maintenance Supervisors Association, which represents approximately 265 Port Authority civilian supervisory employees. This agreement is for a 26-month period and ratified by the union members on November 16th, 2023. Prior to making a motion, I ask the corporate secretary to note any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Questions or comments from the commissioners? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen? Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
The votes are in order. This item has been approved. The next item approves a collective bargaining agreement with the Union of Automotive Technicians, which represents 113 Port Authority employees in civilian crafts such as auto mechanics and other related fields. This agreement was ratified by the union members on November 4th, 2023. The agreement's for a 26-month period. Prior to making a motion, I ask the corporate secretary for any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
The votes are in order. This item has been approved. We will now hear from our Vice Chair Linford to provide his report on behalf of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, I will now report on two items totaling $410 million. The first item, which was discussed earlier today in committee, authorizes a program for priority marine rehabilitation at our New York and New Jersey marine terminals at a total cost of approximately $180 million. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the corporate secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? I hear no comments. I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I will now request the corporate secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
As the votes are in order, this item is approved. The second item, which was discussed earlier today with the Committee on Operations, authorizes a Path Track and Railcar State of Good Repair program consistent with the terms outlined by our Director of Rail Transit earlier today. The estimated total program costs $230 million. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the corporate secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments on these or this item rather? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
May I have a second? Thank you. I now request the corporate secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Thank you. As the votes are in order, this item is approved, and I turn it back to our chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We'll now ask Commissioner Eve to provide her report as the Chair on the Committee on Security.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Committee on Security, I'm recommending one item for approval. This item authorizes a project for certain state of good repair, including software and hardware upgrades for the perimeter intrusion detection system at John F. Kennedy International, Newark Liberty International, LaGuardia, and Teterboro airports at an amount of $12 million. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the corporate secretary to note any commissioner recusals on this matter.
There are no recusals.
Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
I now request the corporate secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bollwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado.
Yes. As the votes are in order, this item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I entertain a motion, just want to say, look, Thanksgiving's in 2 days. Just want to reach out on behalf of this board, our executive director and senior staff, to our Port Authority families, our employees. I want to say how grateful and thankful we all are for all that you do throughout the years. It's a special time that we kind of put into focus what's important in our lives. As I was sitting up here today, I was thinking, Vice Chair, of our former colleague, George McDonald. And he would always talk about that giving back, and he dedicated his whole life to helping the homeless. It's a time for all of us to do something. You know, I'm involved now. We're doing this National Food Bank, which we do every year. It's just one of those things that give you that sense of spirit and community. And I'm asking everybody in our Port Authority family to kind of reach out in the next couple of days and do something special in the name of George or somebody that we know that has really taught us a lesson, a civic lesson about paying it forward and taking care of those who can't really help themselves. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
See you in December.
Very good. Happy Thanksgiving.
To the questions? Okay. What do you got, Tom?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We will now start the Q&A. We'll start with Larry Higgs from New Jersey Advanced Media.
Larry, have we got you?
Hi, I think you have me now.
Yes, Larry, we got you.
Okay, great. Two questions, both involving PATH. The first one is, what's the timetable / schedule for the PATH State of Good Repair Program? When do you hope construction will start, and how long will it take?
Well, we want to start it as soon as possible. It probably will be next year, and I think we have the goal of finishing it up in the 26, 27, 28 timeframe.
Okay. And the other question also involves PATH. It has to do with the rollout of a program to try to encourage people to pay their fares. Try to get an idea of, how widespread of an issue is this with PATH? Do you have any figures on either fares that haven't been paid or people who have been charged with fare evasion?
We don't have numbers. We obviously know it's in the millions of dollars. It is a matter of serious concern, and we, I think, like all public transit systems, are looking at alternatives, which could range from different types of fare gates. PATH has some specific gates which are particularly targeted by fare evaders. So what I would say to you is that we're focused on it. We haven't yet decided on a way forward.
And Larry, we'll try to get numbers in terms of arrests or violations served for those folks who are evading fares or jumping.
Great. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Larry. Thank you.
Next question is Colleen Wilson with The Record.
Hi, thanks so much. So a couple questions. Can you just expand a little bit on the $397 million in the capital plan for the Newark AirTrain? What's that money going toward? Where is that in the process of replacement?
Well, the Newark AirTrain is in the procurement process. What that money is going for is partly is planning money. It is going to be early works. So it will. We are committed to moving it forward. We are doing it in a multi-stage procurement process, and we want to finish it as soon as we can.
Yeah, and Colleen, we're really excited about the progress of having it broken down to smaller, digestible bites. Obviously, the last time we tried to, too big to fail, so to speak. So we're excited about the prospects of having this program move as quickly as possible and within budget.
And so that's designed to increase the competition on those procurements?
Yes, and to share some of the risks. They don't want to just have someone absorb a $2 or $3 billion project on its own. Those days have come and gone. So we're trying to break it down so it's manageable, and other companies will be interested in joint projects or working with others.
I mean, it's exactly what you said, Colleen, which is to encourage competition, and by winding up with smaller packages, we are seeing significantly enhanced bidder interest.
Okay, great. Kind of same question about the Port Authority bus terminal, $370 million for that program. Just more specifics on what that money's going toward. I know they're in the design phase, but if you could just give me a little more detail there, that'd be great.
Well, we're in the design phase and we're in the environmental permitting phase. So the work is heavily focused on completing the design and on the enormous number and intensity of studies that are required to go into putting together a draft environmental impact statement, and that fundamentally is what the bulk of the money is going for. We're hopeful to begin get into the procurement process as soon as the permitting will allow us to do so.
And Colleen, I think that's 4 times the number we spent this year, $70 million for bus terminal. We're going to exceed $300 million. So we're super excited about the investment, the resource, and the focus for 2024 for the bus terminal.
Great. Okay, so just another thing about PATH. we've talked about this before. PATH receives a lot of criticism from customers, especially on the weekends when they're dealing with track outages and single tracking from state of good repair work. But we also know, as I think Mr. Cotton put in his presentation, that people are flocking to transit on the weekends. So I guess as you're preparing for these large capital projects that were mentioned and approved earlier today, how much thought is being given to avoiding weekends, perhaps for capital work, or figuring out other days and times when that kind of work could take place?
Well, there have been a lot of discussions within PATH in terms of how to serve the transit rider. It's a bit of a dilemma. It's a balance. We really need to get this work done. The question of, is it better done on the weekends? Is it better done overnight? Is it better done during the day? Obviously, there are peaks and valleys. It's a balancing act, and we will continue to look at it. We've had discussions about additional and incremental weekend service and even late evening service, but it's all a balance. So right now, can't tell you other than what our director of PATH observed, which was we're going to do a lot of outreach, we're going to do a lot of analysis, and our goal is to get this needed work done with as minimal an impact on the ridership as we can achieve.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday.
Thank you. You too, Colleen.
I believe we have Pat McGeehan from the New York Times on. Pat, we are going to bring up Aidan O'Donnell, our Deputy Director of Aviation, to give you an overview of holiday travel. Pat, if you're there, it's all yours.
Okay, yes, I didn't hear Rick's opening remarks during the meeting, but my question is about the overall holiday outlook for the airports this week. And if you would explain the reference in the advisory to an expectation of understaffing by TSA?
Hey, Pat, Aidan O'Donnell. So we're expecting just above 3 million passengers for Thanksgiving week at the 4 commercial airports in New York and New Jersey. It's a 2% uptick from what we realized last year during the same week, right around Thanksgiving. With respect to TSA staffing, I think the important thing is to leave yourself plenty of time. We've got wait times for all of our terminals posted on the Port Authority website for any customer who's going through. Leave early, bring plenty of patience with you, and have a safe travel.
I'm sorry, do you have some information from the TSA that leads you to think there will be that they'll be short and lines will be long?
No, not at this time. Our airport general managers have been coordinating with the federal security directors at all of our airports. We're confident in the TSA staffing numbers throughout the week. The longer than usual wait times, just all around peak travel period. The airports are going to be busy. Planes are going to be packed. So again, just out of an abundance of caution, I'd make sure folks are leaving themselves plenty of time.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I believe we have one final question from Lorena Mangelli from Newsday. Lorena?
Hi, thanks for taking my question. My question is about the bridge and tunnel toll increases and the air train fare increases. What does this mean for drivers and commuters, and how will the agency benefit from these increases? What do they plan to do with the increases? Do they add to the overall operating revenue?
Yeah, just this is Kevin O'Toole. Just by way of background, I think people need to understand. In January 2008, the board modified the toll schedule, increasing the cash toll from $6 to $8. The board also maintained in 2008 that tolls would have to be automatically increased in the future based on CPI increases without the need for further board action. Those increases following 2008 were mandated to be implemented when the cumulative increase in the CPI calculated in each of the year after 2008 resulted in an adjustment of at least $1, which applied to the then current Class 1 autos, Easy Pass peak toll. At the time, tolls in all categories were mandated to be increased by $1. In August of 2011, the board further acted to increase the toll schedule with a set of specified increases. In September 2011, the toll increased from 8 to 12 in the Easy Pass peak toll increase from 8 to 9.50. Thereafter, the board authorized an annual 75 cents increase for all tolls starting in December 1st of 2012 and 2015. By 2015, the cash toll was set at $15. The Easy Pass peak toll at $12.50. In addition, the board extended the mandate to increase tolls by the CPI going forward after 2015 by adopting the formula approved in 2008, mandating a $1 increase in all toll categories once the CPI-based inflation index triggered a $1 increase in the auto peak Easy Pass toll. In February 2017, in determining capital capacity for the 2017-2026 capital plan, the board considered future revenues from various sources of fees and charges to its facilities, including inflation-based adjustments. The board confirmed this in 2019. The reality is if we have to do big projects, we're going to need revenues, whether it's the airports, whether it's the path, whether it's port, world trade, our bridges, or state of good repair. Money's necessary. The board members back in 2008 and 11 and 17 understood that and put in place a mechanism that would allow these increases to meet the growing demands of the costs of these projects.
Okay, just as a follow-up to that, so transit advocates are worried that at the airport, this is going to put more cars on the road with less people opting to use the air train. Do you have a comment on that, or?
Well, we're in the midst of the largest investment program in Port Authority airports in the history of the agency, $30 billion. Our effort is to enable people to use the airports to be efficient, to be at best-in-class technology, and with a $30 billion investment, we simply have to keep pace with inflation, and that is what the increases are. We're trying to ensure that passengers travel through the airports are as efficient and pleasant and appealing as possible. And we're putting our investment dollars to work to that end. And so we're keeping pace with inflation. It is necessary in order to make those capital investments, and we hope people will understand that.
Tom, anybody else?
Nope, that concludes the Q&A. Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, folks. We'll see you in December.